Welcome to the Vertical MRO Podcast, where we dive into the world of helicopter maintenance, repair, and overhaul. In each episode, we talk with the technicians, engineers, and experts who keep helicopters flying. Because at the end of the day, no maintenance, no mission.
Interesting thing is, if you take anybody in aviation, let alone rotary, and you sit down and start talking about the things that they were able to do, it eclipses anything else. We all have these amazing stories of places we've gone, you know, the Grand Canyon, Niagara Falls. My most special event is we were on the Kirk fire in Los Padres by Carmel by the Sea, and we were the last aircraft on the fire. So the pilot comes up to me and says, "We're going to go do a recon. You want to come with me?" And I said, "Sure." So the squad boss and I hopped into the 212. We flew about a quarter mile offshore off the Pacific Coast Highway. We were 200 feet off the water. We opened the doors and we flew for about 30 miles south of Monterey with the seals and the otters and the waves and the people on the one waving at us as we went by. It's just one of those special things that we all have that type of story of something that we were able to do because of the industry.
Thank you to this episode's sponsors, Metro Aviation and Airbus. Hey, welcome back to Vertical MRO. This is our last and final panel for this week. It's been awesome having the panelists on. All the conversations, all the themes that have come up from the course of these conversations have been great. But for today, I feel like this conversation is another good opportunity to piggyback on the last conversation we had. The last conversation, we kind of finished talking about, you know, how we welcome the newest students or the newest apprentices to the field. So we'll talk about that after the introductions, go through that, and then we've got a whole line of conversation surrounding the topic of entry into helicopter maintenance. So looking forward to doing that. But before we start, if you guys just introduce yourself from left to right, and we'll go from there.
Hi, my name is Dale Martell. I'm the chair of aircraft maintenance programming at Okanagan College.
I'm Jeff Denemy. I'm the president at Alpine Aerotech and Helicopters.
Hi, I'm Mike Broderick. I write for Helicopter Maintenance Magazine, and I've been a consultant for the last about 10 years.
My name is Tristan Beto. I'm with Southern Alberta Institute of Tech on the training side of the School of Transportation.
You know, the end of the last conversation, the ladies talked about how they felt welcomed into the industry, and I think that's important as we consider wanting to retain folks that come in. And I'm sure you guys have heard a lot of stories of folks that come into the industry, they finish school, and they get out and do not like it for whatever the reason is. And unfortunately, a lot of that's probably because of the personnel issues that go with that. So if you could, was there anything that stood out to you guys in that conversation as far as that welcoming environment that we need to create that you guys can speak to? And maybe we could start with you on the end.
Yeah, you know, I kicked off my apprenticeship, left SAIT where I am right now. I graduated and went out to the field. And to be honest with you, I got welcomed quite well with open arms, and the need for capacity was there at the time, and folks really welcomed me into it. And I think that speaks a lot to the success that I've had throughout the years is just a warm entry into aviation.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mike, did you have that same reception into the industry?
Well, I started out, I wanted to go to work for the airlines like most everybody did. I graduated in 1971 out of A&P school. Shows you how old I am. 3 days older than dirt. They say I held Orville's coat for him while he flew. But I ended up going to work for an engine overhaul company that overhauled large engines, and I thought that's really what I want. They snuck a helicopter engine made by, at the time, Allison into the shop, and I became intrigued by it. Nobody wanted to work on it. It was too small. It wasn't that interesting. I got interested in it and ended up being a tech rep because of my interest in that, and that just kind of led me into the industry and opening my own company, overhauling engines and having maintenance from there. And that's kind of happenstance. But once I got bit by the helicopter business, that was it. That was going to be my career.
It's nice to have a 50-plus year career in this field. You've seen a lot of positive stuff, so really cool to pick your brain on this. Thanks for joining us. Jeff?
I think one of the things that resonated was from Taya, like, you know, I think we're doing a pretty good job of if we can get and attract people to come to our industry and maybe not just all going over to the fixed wing side of it, is that, you know, Taya said that, you know, she's been accepted and she feels like she's part of the team. So I think that's important moving forward, is recognizing that, the helicopter industry, for as long as I've been in it, we live and breathe it, and it's a great industry, and we just have to do a great job, keep promoting it.
Yeah, absolutely. Dale?
Yeah, and I unfortunately wasn't at the last event because I've been working and we are outrageously busy, but that's another story. But however, just like Mike, when I came out of tech school in 1990, I wanted to go work airline. In fact, I wanted to work for Ward Air, which if you're ex-Canadian, you're Canadian, you know what that means. And when I graduated, Ward Air disappeared. It got absorbed into Canadian Airlines. And then I went, what do I really want to do? And I liked skiing at the time. So I put one and one together, and Alpine Helicopters over on the west side of Kelowna is the world's largest heli-skiing company. So I went, I want to go work for those guys. So I started showing up, trying to get a job because I knew some guys who worked there and they were going to leave. And I just kept showing up and showing up and showing up. And then they hired me and sent me in the bush for 6 weeks. And I think they did that so I quit showing up.
I think a lot of folks have a general idea of what they're getting into in the industry, the idea that you're going to show up to a hangar, maybe in the bush every once in a while. But I think the places this career takes you, the things you get to experience and do is unique. In most places, you don't get to do that. We were talking before this panel, and you were talking about highlighting some of the neat places that you've been as a result of your decision to pursue this career. Talk about that, and we'll go, just through you and then through the panel, just highlight some of the cool things that you've done and seen over the course of your career.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to fly from the middle of Alaska to Anchorage in a 212. Been all over Africa, Angola, South Africa, Zambia, Rwanda. Been to all over the U.S. I flew from Calgary to Atlanta in a 212, and been up north. Seen a lot of places that you would never actually take a vacation to. So unfortunately, I like fishing, and so some of the areas that you can get into, you can throw a line in and cast and have a good time, and some of the downtime. So, but it's offered an opportunity to go and see the world and get paid healthily for it. So it's been a great eye opener globally. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to see things that you never would have the opportunity to see.
Is that something you anticipated when you got into the industry, or is that something that kind of surprised you?
No, to be honest with you, I anticipated just fighting bugs when I got into the industry. I thought the horseflies would never leave me alone, ever. So
including now,
yeah, right?
Mike?
Well, I have flown over the Grand Canyon. I've flown over Niagara Falls. I've been all over Alaska like you. My first tech rep trip, after I had put the engine back together, the turbine, I was for Alaska Helicopters, and this was back in the 70s. And after I had done the work and we'd done the ground run-up, signed off on the paperwork, I'm getting ready to leave, and the pilot passes me as I'm heading out the door. He said, "Where are you going?" And well, we're finished. As far as I'm concerned, signed everything off. Is there something else you need? He said, "Son," that shows you how long ago it was I was considered son. He said, "Son, if you're not going to get in that helicopter, I'm not going to get in it. Get out here." I get to fly. And then it dawned on me that what we do, if we're not confident in what we do, how can we convey that same confidence to the pilot? And the only way is sit down next to him. And it's also led to some exciting takeoffs over the Grand Canyon, off of a Bank of America building, after changing an engine for 2 days, flying off the edge of the building with the pilot. There was 4 mechanics, and they said, "Let Mikey do it." So I got in the right seat and off we went. But it's those things that you can't duplicate. And unless you're with a group like this that has experienced the same stuff, it's an unbelievable career. And our opportunity here and with the rest of our career to convince others that if you really want to have a good aviation career and you really enjoy working as a mechanic, get into the helicopter business.
Jeff?
Yeah, there's so many opportunities, and it's really a business that, there's a lot of different aspects to the business, from an operating to an MRO side. There's just so many things. But yeah, if you want to see the world or different parts of the world, one of my first jobs was I had to live in a pup tent, and not a hardwall tent, a pup tent at the North Pole for 3 months. And I've worked from the North Pole to the South Pole and around. And so it's, there's just so many different opportunities to be had. And it's such great things. It really is a great industry.
Did they talk about the possibility or opportunity to live in a tent when you're in school?
They don't tell you that. Absolutely not.
Dale.
Yeah, similar stories. The interesting thing is if you take anybody in aviation, let alone rotary, and you sit down and start talking about the things that they were able to do, it eclipses anything else. And I'm sorry for this if you're a plumber or a carpenter or whatever, that you'll do in any other trade. We all have these amazing stories of places we've gone, the Grand Canyon, Niagara Falls. My most special event is we were on the Kirk fire in Los Padres by Carmel by the Sea, and we were the last aircraft on the fire. So the pilot comes up to me and says, "We're going to go do a recon. You want to come with me?" And I said, "Sure." So the squad boss and I hopped into the 212. We flew about a quarter mile offshore off the Pacific Coast Highway. We were 200 feet off the water. We opened the doors and we flew for about 30 miles south of Monterey with the seals and the otters and the waves and the people on the one waving at us as we went by. And I went, I wonder what a plumber's doing right now, because it's just one of those special things that we all have that type of story of something that we were able to do because of the industry in regards to that. And I only spent one trip in a tent, and I was always in a hotel. And when you stay at a ski lodge, you eat really good, and you can tell. So it's not comparable. You can't compare it to any. And like Jeff said, there's all kinds of opportunities. You could be a pool engineer. You could be an engineer on a base. You could go work for Jeff and an MRO. And I mean, the opportunities are just through the roof.
So I'll echo this sentiment you've all talked about. I remember flying San Diego, coastal flights in Southern California, and looking over at my TFO and be like, holy cow, we're getting paid to do this.
Yeah.
It's insane where you find yourself getting paid to do the stuff we love. And we talk about the passion for our industry and for what we're doing. I don't think you find that in many places. So love a lot of what you guys have talked about, or all of it really, but love what you get to do, what this industry and what this career brings as possibilities, things you never thought you'd do or go, Africa being one of those places. Wild, So beyond where people might find themselves, for somebody who's considering entering this industry and this career, talk about, some of the things they can expect. We talked about work-life balance quite a bit during this week. Talk about how that's changed and where some of that work-life balance rests today. And I'll kind of open it up to whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I'll do that one. In the time that I was in the industry, I went in the industry in 1990. And the stories you heard from people were like Jeff's story about the North Pole. You went up north and you were up there for 3 months and you had 2 206s and you slept in a tent and you ate camp food and you did that every single day, same inspections, under the midnight sun or with a flashlight or whatever you were needed to do, wearing your Heli Hansen and your Sorels and your mittens and your toques and the whole 9 yards. And that significantly changed in the time that I was in the industry. Whereas now, employers look at the life that a person who works for them, whether a pilot or an engineer or whatever, and says, you know what, we can't do that to them anymore because here's the reality. They're not going to do it. They're not going to go in the bush for 3 months and freeze their hind ends off. So there's been a significant change. And in fact, it's very rare now that you'll see companies do more than 2 weeks where you're out in the industry or out in the bush, and then you come back, do a little hangar stuff, you get your family lifetime. That has been a significant change that I've seen in the industry over the time that I've been in it. Yeah.
Jeff, for you as an operator, where are you now and how has that changed over time?
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 140 plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
It's exactly like Dale says. It's really about, I think, it's a family. Like, it's not just the individual person that works for you. You have to think about their families and and making sure that, you talk to them and you understand them, and that the mentorship part of it, even from when Clint's was talking, it's so important. So I think, just understanding what the challenges that we all maybe have personally or in the industry, I think that's probably one of the most important things. I think we have to do it like Dale says, but I think it's like an industry that is so self-satisfactory that when you can actually, be sent with a helicopter to go out on a tour and such and be looking after that helicopter all by yourself, it is very satisfactory, and that's, I think, is, as an individual, how you grow. And that's part of a company's job, is to make sure that those persons have the right tools, and the mentorship to do it.
Are you hearing a lot of people talk about the lack of work-life balance in the industry, or any of that? Or does it seem like it's more in line of, there's a fair amount of that work-life balance? What are you seeing on the operator level?
It's probably up here at the top, and I believe, is like Clint was saying, I don't always believe that the money is certainly an aspect as well. But I think it's work-life balance is probably at the highest level that I've ever seen it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mike?
The satisfaction that you get out of this job is irreplaceable, as you can see here. I mean, we've got, so many there I was stories that we can sit around and share a beer. But in order for you to have a satisfactory or a happy career, you've got to have the support of your family. I was fortunate to marry a woman who's got a high threshold for pain. She put up with all of my traveling and nary a complaint. I'm, very fortunate in that, because she allowed me to do all of these things here and gave me the freedom to be satisfied in my career, and puts up with and there I was stories when I get around guys like this. So I think that's important. And then when I started my own company, like I said, you've got to be aware of the people's families. Mm-hmm. And you can't just launch somebody out there and do the job if you think it's going to affect their family. A lot of times I would go myself out into the field rather than send a guy, because I knew that I had the support of my family where he maybe didn't. And that's part of the sacrifice that you want to do, if you call it a sacrifice. But after a career of 50 years, to be able to look back on all of the things that you've done, and you can smile, and there's not that many people that I know of, other than maybe us four guys, that can look back and go, great job. I really enjoyed it.
Interesting perspective. How do we change that to where we get to where these four folks are the majority of the conversation? These four folks are echoing what everyone else believes. Like, this is amazing. How do we change that narrative?
How do we change that narrative? I guess we have more of these type of events, and we invite more people who might be considering, they're already thinking about aviation, but we show them the devotion that we have, the passion that we have, and that's catching. I think if they're at all interested in again being a real mechanic, that will transfer over the passion that we share, and we convince them. And I think we need to not only address the young men, we need to address the young women in this industry. That's what I was so happy about the last one, is there's two nice young ladies that are getting into it. The young women bring a different perspective to maintenance, and I think it's good. We as men have, an abundance of testosterone and big egos, and sometimes we let our egos get in the way of what we're doing. I don't think the women share that. I think that they can approach a problem differently and give you a different outlook on life.
From the educational perspective, what would you say you're seeing as far as ratios go? You see an increasing ratio of females wanting to join and get into schools to join this industry, or where do you guys see that right now?
I see a significant number of young women joining SAIT and other colleges. And in fact, there's a number of success stories through Alpine where women have joined the Rotary world. So it's growing. There's a lot of advocacy within the industry through Elevate Aviation, Women in Aviation. There's a lot of groups out there, and I know there's a lot of women in the Okanagan Valley that are in the helicopter community that have banded together to really support one another. And from my perspective, and we need to champion the women in the industry and really support and put them up and make sure that they're a big part of that workforce, because it's an untapped resource, and they bring a ton of expertise and skill and critical thinking to the table.
Back to the work-life balance on you for new students coming into your program. What kind of questions are you getting as it relates to work-life balance, or are you not getting that?
No, we do get a lot of questions around the work-life balance, and the conversation I try to have is try to map out your career in terms of what you want. We'll explain to you all the options of where you can go. You can do airline work, you can do MRO work, you can go to the component world, and provide them the broad spectrum of the understanding of the aviation community in its whole, and get a feel for you're young and you want to go adventure, you want to travel. Maybe the helicopter world will fit you for a period of time in the operations world, but then, set a timeline or look at it. Maybe you want to have a family later in life. Then the MRO world might be something that you look at, but sort of try to give yourself a rough outline of where you think your career can go. And then that's on the operator and the MRO side, like we've heard today, is to have those discussions and talk about that career path plan with your new apprentices and give them the visibility on where they can go, and to be open and transparent about how that succession looks in their career.
Yeah, that career progression conversation is interesting to me. It brings the question of leadership into account. Jeff, for you, having risen through the ranks, when you look back on your career, did you have a kind of a career path in mind as you navigated this, or did it just kind of happen?
That's a tough question. I think it was always wanting to do more and just being driven, I think, but I have to give it back to some of my mentors that I work with that gave me those opportunities to do the things that I wanted to do. And, there's mentors, my mentors are sitting in this room right now. So I think that's the thing that we have to do as leaders in the business is to do that same thing and give back and understand and try and attract people to our business. Like, on the previous panel, it was mentioned, if you wanted to go to the fixed wing side, you could actually get lost. It's a very big industry. I think the helicopter industry, as you look around here, it's quite small and it's very personable. And I think it's something that it's an opportunity to be recognized and to progress. So that's my pitch for helicopters.
I think for me, on the flight side of the industry, I always considered training, education, and networking a big key to career progression and kind of setting yourself up for that next thing, whatever that next thing is for you. So I think this community, what we've created here, I'm hoping will give some people some keys and pathways to figure that next step out, at least to where you're prepared and qualified to go to the next level. But what advice would you have for someone who, like you, is identified, I want to kind of rise through the ranks and maybe lead an organization at some point?
I think it's just be patient and really listen and just I think pick a path, like Tristan was saying, is try and figure out what it is and maybe try different things. I mean, there is a lot of different types of work we do in the industry. So I think that's just be patient. And I know for the younger generation, that's a little bit harder. They want to go from here to here, but I think it's just being patient and listening and asking questions.
Mike, any insight from you?
There's a book that's out now that I've read. It's called Chop Wood, Carry Water. I don't know if anybody's had it. The coach of the Ohio State football team had his group read that. But it's the story of a man's career. And what it basically says is success comes from doing the small things, doing the dirty jobs constantly. Be aware of taking those jobs on. Don't discount them, looking for something that's more important. If you do the small jobs, if you do the jobs that are routine and learn those and do those competently, you will then progress along and be able to take on the other jobs. But
No, I think that the book side of it's interesting. Love the continuous learning and that type of motivation. Dale, from any insight from you on that?
Well, it actually starts in high school. We recruit out of the high schools. We are active in all of the high school career fairs, trade fairs, et cetera. Industry's jumping on board now. We're seeing a lot more of industry getting into the high schools early because that's where the dreams start in a lot of ways. A lot of kids, sometimes 15 years old, they don't know what they're going to do. But some people at that age know, this is the pathway. I'm interested in aviation. What pathways exist inside? That's my story. I knew about aviation. My grandfather was Commonwealth Air Training Program. He encouraged me. There was all these pathways in front of me. I never thought about helicopters. I met a guy from Pacific Western, which again dates us in regards to how old we are. And he set a pathway and said, why don't you try this? And as I said, I came out of school into helicopters. But that was at 27 years old. We now need to get kids at 17 in the high schools interested in what we do. And like I said, Jeff's involved in that stuff in the Okanagan. The Okanagan is actually pretty easy. And the reason is we have such a big presence with Rotary now in the Okanagan Valley. You can't drive a mile without seeing a helicopter operator. And then, of course, with the fires and COSAR and the search and rescue and all this, even the heli tours to the wineries. If you live in the Okanagan, there's a helicopter going over your head pretty much about every hour. And that helps us encourage students because we can relate that now to an industry profession as opposed to everybody knows about airlines. So it makes it a lot easier. But that's the first steps. Get in at high school, get them out for students for a day. So we bring them in and give them an opportunity to try what school is going to be like, talk to students. We get them into, a lot of them will go to, I know Jeff will do that, right? Students for a day, have shop shadows, get industry involved on that, really at that very beginning part so they understand and see that pathway. We also get the shop teachers because the shop teachers are the ones who are working with the people with technical skills. So we get involved with them as well because they are the ones who are going to encourage the students go pathways into trade schools. So that's where it's got to start. And we've seen a lot of success. It doesn't work for everybody, as everybody knows.
I think the trades need to be emphasized more in high school. I know in the U.S., it seems like when I was back in high school, you had auto shop, welding shop, wood shop, and those are the things that if you didn't want to go to college, you had another career that you could choose from. They've eliminated those and replaced them with you got to go to college, and this is your career path. This is what you're going to do. That's not necessarily true, and this is where we've lost out, I think, of a lot of opportunities to educate or at least introduce aviation to the high school level. And then companies taking on rookies and bringing them in and training them and spending the time and the effort to train them. That's a big deal.
And I think the early exposure, like we're talking about for kids to the helicopter industry, the pathways that exist to become a maintainer, a pilot, air crew, whatever that thing is within our community is critical. I think the next question people are going to ask, well, that's great. I want to do that thing, but what am I going to get paid? What can I expect? And you can make a good living in this industry. From an educational perspective, when folks come to you and like, hey, I'm interested, I know they're going to ask, what's the salary range? And there's a ton of variables that go into that. But what kind of answer do you provide for the students that do ask that question?
Yeah, it's a hot topic. Students are investing $30,000 into their training over a 2-year period and missing out on having a job and making money. So it's a big concern for them. Like, I'm investing this money, and what am I going to get out of this? What can I expect to make when I leave this facility with my diploma? And the conversation is broad. We're not providing any sort of like, you're going to make $25 an hour or you can expect to make 18. It's depending on what you want to do. Where do you want to go? I mean, there's you can get better pay, but with more sacrifice, depending on, whether you go to the operations side, but of helicopters. If you go to the MRO side, you might sacrifice some wages, But what you sacrifice in wages, you gain in skill set in terms of the work you're exposed to in the MRO environment. So there's a trade-off between the two of them. The airlines are fast approaching numbers that are highly competitive, and it's a big check for the helicopter world in terms of how do we attract people in and offer them that the dangle the carrot per se to bring them over. And the adventure side of helicopters is certainly an aspect that folks are looking for, but we try to give them a broad range of, you could make anywhere between this and this. We try not to discuss the numbers too closely so that we don't set an expectation that is not met at the end of the day. But we give them that visibility of, where you could go, what you could do, how much you could make, and, what are the trade-offs through all the organizations.
Dale, are you seeing a similar?
Yeah, we do the exact same thing. It's hard to let them know specifically how much they're going to make. We tell them to call Jeff. We give him his card. Say, give Jeff a call. He'll tell you, because he's the guy who's going to hire you, and that is not wrong in some context, right?
Don't put me on the hot seat here.
But reality-wise, yeah, we have to tell them it depends on what you do and where you go. You'll make more money going up north. We tell them the helicopter rotary wage curve is quicker than fixed wing in a lot of context in regards to what you have to do. But you also may have to be out in the bush for half a year to make some of those numbers. So again, we can't label it because it's up to you to go in and talk to the HR and find out what they're going to pay you.
As the recruitment issue grows, I'm sure we'll see compensation make up for some of that to try and attract some folks in. So I'm curious, Mike, for you, when you look back to the early part of your career, how have you seen that wage growth increase, requisite to the amount of knowledge you contain in the job you do?
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
Well, the entry, the helicopter business is a group of small businessmen. If you boil it all down, there's probably about 2 helicopters per operator if you call all the operators and put them all together. So you're dealing with a small businessman. Your pay getting started there is going to be what they can afford. And the cost of operating a helicopter is going anywhere but down. It appears as though getting parts is not only takes a long time, but it's also expensive. So that's all got to be justified. And again, you're selling when you're talking to somebody that wants to get into this industry, you're telling them that they're going to make a good living wage. That's basic. You've got the opportunity to go the different directions, like you've brought out about going OEM or going overhaul or going out into the field. But again, it comes down to the passion as to what you want to do with this industry and how you want to become a part of it. Or you can go to work for the airlines. They're offering insane wages to A&Ps coming right out of school. They also offer insane layoffs, and they will cut back 10, I've seen go as deep as 15 years experience. And when it comes to a layoff, they have no conscience. You're out in the field. See ya. And that's it.
Yeah, I think that's where a company like Alpine comes into interest here. You see the operations you guys have, they're really cool stuff you're getting to do. A lot of different options available. Can you talk about some of the options that are available for folks that once they're qualified to come work at your shop, what things they might be able to find themselves doing over the course of their career within Alpine's?
I think it's important that, we recognize and we help them pick their path and support them. I mean, for us, for example, we have an apprenticeship program that's very structured. Like, it's not just, coming and working for us and trying getting them their actual license and advancement. It's actually, there's 6 months check-ins. They are actually placed with different mentors for the apprenticeship program. It's all, there's reviews in those programs. So it really, there's feedback to be given. It's not just by one mentor. It could be 6 different ones over the path of their apprenticeship. And along goes that is their logbook is filled out in conjunction with their mentors that are working within the program. So if I can say anything, I think it's one thing that, could help, provide direction for both the company and the individual you're hiring, so that it gives them that right path and a structured path. And it seems to be working for us. I mean, I can't thank the people that are involved in that program, because they're also have a full-time job to do during the day as well, but they're also mentoring. And I think that's our job nowadays is really to be, mentoring and passing on our knowledge and showing their career path for advancement.
Yeah, I think those apprenticeship programs are really interesting. We had Maria on earlier from Airbus, and she talked about their apprenticeship program. Can you talk about your program and what it does, and kind of where you go from there?
Well, it starts right from the very time they walk through the door through induction. They actually, you sit down with them with the apprenticeship program. It's all laid out and how this is what's going to happen over the next 3 years. And then after that, you discuss what direction you're going, whether or not you want to stick in as an avionics tech or a structures tech. It really does. It just makes sure that you're having those conversations with those individuals, even past the apprenticeship program, and what training do they need in order to advance, and how do we retain those people? It's exactly like Clint was saying. You have to have those conversations one-on-one all the time if you're wanting to retain your team.
If there's a shop who's saying, I want to create an apprenticeship program but don't really know where to start, what would your advice be to that operation?
Pick up the phone. There's lots of, I think and even something like these conferences that, I've had conversations with other operators and MROs about our program. And I think even talking with Dale and Tristan at the schools, telling them that we have an apprenticeship program or Company B has an apprenticeship program, they're the ones that are passing those words on to those individuals coming out of school, so that there's a structured path coming out. They're not just left to flail around.
Yeah, and the one thing, and I want to comment on this, because we take our students over and they go through Jeff's organization. They bring him into a boardroom, they sit him down, he shows them this pathway of what's going to be available to them when they get on with the company. And it's really an interesting change, because we'll take them to other MRNOs, and the MRNO will show them their facility and basically say, this is what we do, this is what we do, this is what we do. And everything that they say, this is what we do, is for the company. When they go see Jeff sits them down and says, this is what we're going to do for you. So it gives them the feeling, you know what, it's important for me to be working at that company, because the company is respecting and looking at what I want to do as being something that's very important, which a lot of companies lose. They bring you on, you're now just a number in the payroll system. You're going to come in, you're going to do what you're told that day, and tomorrow we'll do it again and again. Whereas, like I said, when Jeff sits them down, and we get this feedback from our students, they come back and they go, wow, if I go work for that company, I know exactly what my life's going to look like for 3 years. And the company is investing in me, and I see that by the way he's laid it out. It's fantastic.
We give them free T-shirts.
Yeah, and hats.
So we talked about the need to do things differently than we've done them before. We got to think outside the box to retain these folks, to bring them in the front door. The models like what you've created, Jeff, at Alpine, those are the ones we need to look to and be like, this is a good standard. This is what we should do as an industry. So kudos to you guys for acknowledging that, recognizing that, and actually doing it.
Kudos to those people that really are in the program, and the schools that are recognizing it. So,
well, the cool thing is that I don't see them standing around wringing their hands going, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle it? You've taken on mentorship, which is something that's needed to be done. And it's not an expense. It's an investment in your future and in your company. And I think so many people, when they think about, oh, I'm going to take on this rookie and it's going to be an expense. No, it's not. It's an investment. You're to be congratulated. And more companies need to take this type of attitude of, taking these young guys out, bringing them in and giving them an opportunity to see where their path can go, and then following it, giving them a structured apprenticeship rather than you're an apprentice and I'm going to put you with a full-time mechanic and you're going to learn what he's going to teach you. And I'm glad to see that is happening within this industry. It's needed.
Mhm.
Yeah. Tristan, for
Attract more people.
the operator who's hearing Jeff talk about this and being like, you know what, that's something that I'd like to pursue. How could they work with the schools, in particular you, to kind of bring that online to create this program in conjunction with what you guys are doing?
Absolutely. SAIT and the Institute is happy to chime in wherever we can fit in with the industry. We're always looking for partnerships, and if it's helping with discussions around career path planning and developing a program to help out operators, the door's open, the phones are always on, and we're happy to support the industry as a whole to provide some guidelines and maybe a sounding board. And from what we see from our perspective and what the students are looking for in terms of work-life balance, we can provide some of that insight from the Institute perspective.
Anything different for you guys?
No, same pathway. We're always talking industry and encourage industry and really appreciate what industry does because they make it. Even though we're kind of their HR, we're recruiting firm because we're in schools and we're bringing people into the industry. We have a lot of great success in the Okanagan Valley with industry coming to us and saying, you know what, you're doing a great job. We like what we're seeing, and they're also good for giving us, other tidbits. This is what we really would like you to focus on. Can you move towards something more like this? And that communication has to happen as well between industries and schools in regards to getting people on board and getting them excited about helicopters.
Are you guys seeing an increase in the number of operators who are coming to you guys to find those partnerships?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we take a look at where we are within the industry, and we're in an interesting spot, whereas our students are our customers, but the industry is also our customer. So we have two customer bases that we need to manage, and the student, being a customer, wants to walk away with the feeling that the education that they got prepared them well enough to enter industry successfully, and then the industry wants to come back to us and say, hey, great product that you're putting out there. We're happy to see what that's coming out. So we have two ends that we need to please at the end of the day to provide a solid product out there. And so we work with the industry in getting feedback from them wherever our students are placed. We have program advisory committees that give us feedback on the quality of candidates that we're putting out there, and constantly trying to navigate that. So
yeah, sometimes that can be a tough balance, I'll bet.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
Keeping both customers happy.
Absolutely.
The number of engineers needed as we go forward, we've talked throughout the week about there's this exponential growth in the need for these folks to enter the industry. From the educational side, what are you guys seeing as far as a response to that, and how do we accomplish that goal of bringing these folks through the educational institutions and then getting them into the field to actually fill those roles?
At this point, SAIT, our school is at capacity. We're waitlisted all the way out till 2027. So we're doing as much as we can to put folks through our program. We have graduating classes every 4 months. So we're really trying to push it out. We're in the process of developing a traditional apprenticeship as a different avenue to bring folks into the industry. So much like an auto mechanic would do, or a heavy duty mechanic would do, you get hired on at a company, they'd sponsor you. You go through period 1, 2, 3 over the 4-year period. You'd complete what would be your 2-year diploma training, and you'd have a license at the end. And it's been done in Canada. There's precedent set. There's two colleges that do it, Red River College, and then there's a college in Newfoundland that does it. And it's another pathway where we can start to introduce additional capacity to the industry. So it's something we're looking at and trying to make sure that we're feeding the industry enough of the skilled individuals.
Dale, I saw you shaking your head when he's talking about the wait list.
Yep.
Are you guys in a similar position?
Yeah, you can't get in till September 2026. So yeah, there's a lot of interest in aviation, and that, of course, isn't just Rotary. That's across the whole board.
Are you starting to see more educational institutions come online to fill that need as people are waitlisted, or is it pretty steady as far as the number of institutions that do this?
The ATO number hasn't changed in quite some time. You can go on the Transport Canada website and look at all the approved training organizations and all the basic training certificates that are out there. So you can get visibility on who's out there doing what. But at this point, I don't see a lot of increased numbers of ATOs coming online for basic training.
Mike, any insight from you on this topic?
Well, we need more events like this. We need to continue to shine the light on what this industry needs. And it's educational for me to find out that there are companies out there that like I say, are not wringing their hands going, oh, what are we going to do? They've taken this situation by the horns and are doing something about it. And that's gratifying considering, where we are. The industry is small, and it's family-like in its atmosphere, and I think that while competing maybe for different contracts, there's not one operator out here that wouldn't give a hand to another one, just to make sure that he stays in business and would do something. You'll do it. It's gratifying, and those are the good things, and that's what, having put in all these years into the business, it's nice to see that it's what's going on behind me is going to be good. Obviously, I got more of my career behind me than I do ahead of me, unless I'm going to live to be 150.
Jeff, you guys you've become a model in the industry.
I don't know about that.
I mean, you guys are impressive. We're talking about coming up with solutions, and like Mike said, you guys have a solution. You're not waiting and trying to figure this out. You're actively doing something. So with that in mind, what can other folks do, or what suggestions or ideas do you have to move that needle to help us retain and recruit more folks as we go forward?
If you're passionate about rotorcraft maintenance, then be sure to check out Vertical's new Instagram channel at vertical.mro. Sharing all things related to helicopter maintenance, repair, and overhaul, from the latest podcast episodes to conference updates, and even epic photography. Vertical MRO is dedicated to supporting and advancing rotorcraft maintenance, the backbone of our industry.
I think it's just like Mike says, like things like this certainly will help, and then just getting out there and working with the high schools and just knowing that you're always going to need people. I mean, the business cannot run without people. So, I think it's just like we do maintenance planning. I think it's like you have to do people planning and figure that out for a long term and really not just next year. I think it's like, what's it going to look like in 10 years? Because that number of 600,000 AMEs are going to be needed by 2040. That's a big number. So I think, if we can just do a little bit better job of that. I mean, with a work-life balance, what happened, like some of us would know, is we used to go out in the summertime and work 3 months at a time, and you used to budget 1.2 mechanics per helicopter. Now it's 2 mechanics per helicopter and 2 pilots per helicopter. So that's really expediting some of the shortage that's going on. So how do we expedite getting people in? It's going to take an investment and a lot of work, I think. And maybe, I think through COVID and stuff, I think we took a bit of a back seat to it and maybe took our foot off the gas a bit, because the world has been a bit uncertain. But I think, you have to put your foot on the gas on this one. People are everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you look to the future of where our industry is going, outside of the issues surrounding recruitment, what do you guys see for the future of helicopter maintenance? Now, that's a super broad question to ask, but I'll open it up, and I don't know if any one of you wants to start.
Well, it's where's the crystal ball? I mean, and I don't think you'll disagree when I say UAVs are going to be take a bite out of our industry for sure. But on the maintenance side, they still need to be fixed, right? That's Mike Holmes. If you're a Canadian, you know who Mike Holmes is. He always said, if we're going to build it, we're always going to have to fix it. So that's the saving grace to some context about being on the maintenance side and repair and overhaul side, is those aircraft, even though they're UAVs, are still going to need maintenance. So that's the benefit. That's the big challenge in the future, I think, is how that transition as a paradigm shift is going to occur in regards to people, even pilots. I mean, pilot won't be sitting in the airplane; he'll be sitting at home on a joystick.
Are you guys integrating that type of training into your programs as it relates to drone repair and overhaul?
We aren't, but I know that you guys are, right?
Yeah, SAIT offers a RPAS program where we teach drone pilots. The maintenance side of it is still to be determined. There are a lot of thresholds that they're approaching in terms of categories of heavier drones. But at this point, we're waiting on framework from Transport Canada, the regulators, to really understand this. I know the U.S. created a special category, powered air vehicles, to create that separation from aircraft for the eVTOLs. So it's going to introduce a level of complexity there. They're miles ahead of us. So the regulatory side of it is a little behind. It will be a disruptive technology, but I don't ever see robots replacing an AFCU on a 212. It's just not going to happen. No. So we'll always be needed, and you can't replace yourself sitting up in that helicopter looking at something, or HEMS or any of the tourist type of operations. You just won't replace it. So I see the role of helicopter maintenance will be around for a very long time. Now, what capacity and what demand do we have in the industry, that may shift a little, but I think we're fairly insulated for quite some time.
Yeah, it's interesting on the concept and topic of drones. I think there's a lot of pilots who fear exactly what you're saying. It's going to replace the job, but I view it as more of a complementary role that they're going to place in particular public safety. Those drones can do things in public safety that manned aviation can't do, and vice versa. So I think it'll be a complementary role as it relates to that, and I'll be excited to see how that goes forward. But like you said, I don't see it as a competition to take jobs away, more of a complementary thing, and figuring out and learn how do we utilize those to make ourselves more effective and efficient as we go forward. Absolutely. Jeff, back to you. Again, outside of recruitment, where do you see the maintenance industry going as we go forward?
I think technology is evolving, and I think that's part of what has to make it exciting for people coming in the industry, especially new and coming from schools. That there's still the legacy aircraft out there that are still always going to be out there. But in Canada, we are seeing more and more like newer helicopters and the odd new one out there, and I think that's important to keep interest in even your current workforce, so that they have something new to work on, and I think companies need to look at that, and owners need to look at that, and how does that's part of part of the equation as well, is keeping the interest moving and the technology and getting the tools to be able to do that, and providing the training. So I think we're sort of evolving a bit in Canada here with some newer technology and newer aircraft, which is great. It's I think that's part of what is needed.
Yeah, the increased technology and these new tools require a wider breadth of knowledge, and it's
computers.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think it'll be interesting to see how that wider breadth of knowledge is tackled as we go. Mike, for you, where do you see the industry going as we move forward?
Well, that's interesting. You bring up the drones, and they've invaded our airspace, and I think they caught the regulatory agencies off guard when they all of a sudden showed up, and you could go into the hobby shop, buy a drone, take it out, and now you are totally responsible for its maintenance, for its learning all of the rules on how it should fly. It's totally your responsibility. And a lot of these guys couldn't spell drone when they walked in there, but they bought one for their kid, and now here they are, responsible for it. And you've got a whole group full of people that maybe aren't or weren't aviation oriented when they got started, and they would be the ones that, oh, look at that helicopter, let me send my drone up there to fly next to him so I can get a picture for Johnny. Trust me, it happens. This is what the FAA, this is what Air Transport Canada is fighting. And there's, believe it or not, last time I looked, there's about 2 million of these little drones floating around. There is a place for them, but we are going to have to incorporate them into our industry in a friendly manner, because they can do a lot of good things, and they can help. Maintenance-wise, there's no control over that. Because they're not certified aircraft. the small drones are not certified. So who's going to maintain the direction on maintenance? They have to be maintained, and the best thing you can do is treat them like a rotorcraft and maintain them accordingly that way. But the experience level, that's your responsibility, I guess, is to figure out, what kind of training you can offer to somebody who's got a drone.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you look at some of the new eVTOL technology that's coming up. Archer Aviation is going to pilot a flight in Dubai in January 2026. So it's going to be groundbreaking in terms of that. That's going to be the next phase. It'll be 2030 before we ever see it in Canada. But those aircraft, like a Beta Aviation eVTOL, has 28 moving parts on it. That's it. So they're very simplistic in that respect. But the framework around maintaining that, there'll always be a need for somebody to replace the rotors or change the motors or replace batteries, and do those checks, the airframe checks and whatnot.
But they last forever, and I think it gives people an idea of complacency that this thing, it looks good to me, launch it again. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is an issue that we need to address and make sure that, again, they fall into some kind of an inspection regime.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think as drones progress, a lot of times there's more questions that we have than answers for those questions. But as we close out, I'll ask you guys one final question. And Dale, we'll start with you. Advice you have for the student who's about to enter the program, about to enter this career field. How do you enter this industry and have a successful career where at the end of your career, you walk out like Mike, you're happy, you're healthy, you have a passion to be here that we all have today?
Just like he said, pick up the phone, talk to all the people here. Everybody here has a story. They're here because of Rotary. They're here because of helicopters. Everybody in this room has a story they could tell about the industry and how it's affected them and why it was the pathway that they chose and why they're happy. We hear all these great stories. I sat in gravel pits for 14 hours a day for 2-hour minimums as well. So there's the other side of the coin on top of there. But the passion of what a great job it is uncomparable. So we talk to our students, come in and see us. We'll show you the educational side and what you're going to do, but we always encourage them. Give Jeff a call, give KF Aero a call, get out there. They're more than willing to show you what the industry side of things looks like. So if you're passionate about it, you got to talk to people. You got to ask people and find out what really is going to fit for you. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Jeff?
It's pretty much what Dale says. I think the industry builds passion. Like that's really, for me, it's been in this industry, and it just provides so many opportunities, and it kind of feels, you see a lot of people you haven't, you don't see all the time, but they come back to things like this. It's almost like, it's almost like family, our industry a bit, even though somewhat we're competitors in some ways, but we can put that all aside and still come back here and really, sit and have a beer and discuss things in a small personal manner. And I think that's part of why our industry is different than the fixed wing.
Yeah, that community aspect of it's huge.
Yes.
Yeah. It's been really cool to sit here and listen to the chatter, the conversation. And we envisioned this being a place where people come and exchange ideas, just like you guys talked about. How do we move this industry forward? It's through conversations. It's over a beer. It's over a beer napkin with a weird idea that just seems to work out. I'd be very curious to see as we move forward how many of those ideas that were born here spread across the world and really change the industry in a positive way. So to your point, I'm very excited about that. I do agree. Communication is a huge part of our ability to grow as a community, to solve some of the problems we have. So it was really inspiring and motivating for me to hear the conversation, to see the networking that's happening here. It's been awesome. Yep. So thank you for illustrating that for us. Tristan?
My words to a lot of the graduates as they left the facility was to stay committed. There'll be tough days, there'll be fun days, there'll be long days, but the reward at the end of it is worth it. In my opinion, I think it's probably one of the greatest career paths in aviation, and I've spent 20 years in the helicopter business. It's phenomenal. It's you see the world, you can do exciting things, but it does come with hard days, does come with long days. But stay committed, and right here today, you see a community that wants to see the success in those folks, and so when they do have a hard day, it's remember that, you were in those shoes at one point in time, and it can get tough, but stick with it and see it through, because it's worth it.
Well, this concludes the last panel we've had here for this conference. Thank you guys so much for coming and joining, and let's give these guys a hand.
Thanks, John.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
guys.
Stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors.
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 140-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
If you're passionate about rotorcraft maintenance, then be sure to check out Vertical's new Instagram channel, @vertical.mro, sharing all things related to helicopter maintenance, repair, and overhaul, from the latest podcast episodes to conference updates, and even epic photography. Vertical MRO is dedicated to supporting and advancing rotorcraft maintenance, the backbone of our industry.